Okay, good evening, everyone. David Cashman here, SEB Housing, and this is the lottery for the affordable and workforce units at Richmond, Meadows 2 in Nantucket. Oh, all right. Already we got a question saying I can't hear you. Not quite sure. You got to put on your volume. Can other people hear me? Can someone else confirm that this is just Jussie having trouble? Is anyone else having trouble? If one person can just respond in the chat box, I'll ask the question there. Oh, and Jussie can hear me. Great. Thank you. Perfect. Thanks, everyone. All right. So let me just say, first off, sorry for the delay on Monday. I know we were supposed to do this Monday. Something came up. I had to push it back. I'm really terribly sorry. I hope that wasn't an inconvenience for anyone. Hopefully you got the email and the phone calls that we put out there to let people know. And I also created I did a little thing at like 3:30 that day and created a YouTube with the original link so that if anyone went there, hopefully they would see it and got the information that way that we were pushing it back to tonight. So in any event, thanks for being flexible and I apologize. So this is a popular lottery. We had 182 completed applications for the lottery. And let me start by, I'll just give a little bit of background information about kind of how this is going to run, how many households there were, how the waiting list will be created, and really just try and give you a little bit of a roadmap for what the next steps are going to look like, and including how I'm going to actually do the drawing. Before I do that, hopefully everyone knows what their lottery application number is. That was the number you received in the letter when we told you you were eligible for this opportunity. So it would have been something like, let me just, A dot blank, blank, blank. So I'll just write that in the chat box. All right, so an example of a lottery application number would be A.001. Someone has that one, all the way up to A.182 and everything in between. If you know your lottery application number, great. You don't need to say anything, and better off I don't know. If anyone here doesn't know their lottery application number, they can't find it or they forgot it, please feel free to type in your name. It's got to be the name. It's got to be the name of the applying household. They're somehow the head of household. There are plenty of households with multiple members. So if you give me your name, but you're not the head of household, I may have trouble finding you quickly. But if anyone doesn't know their lottery application number, please feel free to give me your name and I will try and quickly find it before we do the drawing. If I can't quickly find it before we do the drawings, I'll find it after. But again, if you do know your number, great, and you don't need to say anything. So let's just give you a couple details here. And I should just say, people are already typing in stuff to the chat box. Great. And for anyone who's attending via the YouTube, that is the way to ask questions or make comments. And I will just reiterate that here. And then there's also we're also doing the a call at the same time. I'm just typing that in. So if you prefer to get on and join the conference call, you can do that as well. I just put the number and the code in into the chat box. So that's another way to listen in as we do this. I think most people prefer to do the YouTube because I'll be, holding up the numbers as I go and you can see them. It's not quite as easy to follow on the phone, but whatever works for you. So let's talk a little bit about how many applications there were, how the lottery is going to be run, and kind of what to expect going forward. So as I said, there are a total of 182 applications that will be entered into the lottery. If you may recall, when you completed your lottery application, one of the first questions asked you what household type you were. And it was either a type 1 or a type 2. Type 2 being appropriately sized for the 2-bedroom units. Zaciel Nash, I didn't see you. Let me just, a second here. Okay, Zaciel, let me come back to you. I'm not seeing you on a quick search here, so I may have to come back around. So you'll either be a type 1 or a type 2 household. 104 households were type 2, meaning they get preference for the 2-bedroom units, but not for the 1-bedrooms or studios. And 78 households were type 1 households. 125 households in total qualified for local preference. So when we do the lottery drawing, which we'll do in a couple of minutes here, I have to do 2 separate drawings. I first have to do a local preference drawing, which just consists of the 125 households who qualified for local preference. So I put all 125 of those numbers in my lottery box, which is off the screen, but just here to my left. I'll shake it up, mix it around, and start pulling the numbers out and showing them up to the screen as I go. After we do that, I will then add those numbers to the other households, 57, I think, who did not qualify for local preference. So I'll get all 182, and I will do a second general drawing with all of the households. So 2 separate drawings. The first one is the 125 local preference households. The second drawing is all 182 households, including the 125 local preference households. This is, in fact, a redundant process that is unnecessary, and yet it is the process that we must follow, and so that's how we have to do it. Every person who's eligible for the lottery will be picked. Okay, so everyone who has their lottery application number will be picked and will have a position on one or several waiting lists. And Catherine, while I'm doing this, can you check the database? I don't know if you have it in front of you. Can you see if you can find Zasiel's number? I'm not seeing it, but I'm trying to keep this moving. Maybe you can take a quick check and see if you see it there.
Sure, let me look.
I'd look in the original application processing database because I've made some modifications to the one in the marketing folder. So if you could take a look there while I keep this moving for Zasiel Nash, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, so we'll do the 2 drawings, and then what happens is, those drawings will have different household types. They'll have households who were type 2, type 1. They'll have households who applied for studio units, households who applied for 1-bedroom units, households who applied for 2-bedroom units. At different AMI tiers, some households applied for the 50%, some for the 80%, some for the 100%. What does that mean as you're actually watching me do the drawing? It means that it's actually a little hard to tell in real time what it means, because there's a lot of different people applying for different things mixed in, okay? So, you might be watching and you're drawn 20th in the local preference drawing, let's say. Does that mean you're 20th on a waiting list? Probably not, because of the 19 people drawn ahead of you, some of them might be applying for something different than you are. Maybe you applied for a 1-bedroom 50% unit, and a bunch of the people ahead of you applied for a 2-bedroom 100% unit. So different things. So I recognize that in the moment that we're doing the drawing, that can actually be a little anticlimactic, I guess, because, it's hard to know in real time as we go exactly what it means. However, after we do the sorting tonight, I will be working tonight and into tomorrow morning to sort all of the results. And I will populate the waiting lists. And then I will aim to get you those waiting lists by midday tomorrow. I hope at the latest. I hope sooner than that. Those waiting lists will be ordered top to bottom in the order of priority that households are going to have. And they will have your lottery application numbers, not your names. And you'll be on every waiting list that you qualified for. So if you applied for, let's say you checked off that you were interested in 1-bedroom units, and we sent you a notice saying you qualify for the 1-bedroom 50% units and the 1-bedroom 80% units, then you will be on both of those waiting lists. And if another household just applied for a studio unit and they were eligible for only the 50% studio unit, then they will only be on that waiting list. There will in total be 8 separate waiting lists. Okay, 8 separate waiting lists. And when I send them to you, they'll be named. So you'll find the waiting lists that you applied for. And again, you should know which ones you're eligible for because that was in the lottery notice that we sent you, because we sent you a notice that would say, you know, you applied for a 1-bedroom, you qualify for a 1-bedroom 50 and a 1-bedroom 80. So you'd go to the 1-bedroom 50% list and the 1-bedroom 80% list, and then you just scroll through and find your number. And then you'll be able to see, okay, you know, I'm 10th on this list and I'm 25th on that list. Okay. So, again, I will work as hard as I can tonight and through the morning to populate those lists so that you have them and you know where you stand relative to the other 181 households in this lottery. Now, I'm going to also send you a handout that has a lot of this information on it. So no one here should feel like they need to be scribbling these numbers down or memorizing anything. It's all going to be on the documents that I send you. But real quickly, just so you know, 8 waiting lists. The first one is for 50% 1-bedroom units. There are 53 households that'll be on that list. The next are for 80% 1-bedroom units. There will be 80 households on that list. For the 100% 1-bedroom unit, local preference, there'll be 78 households. For the 100% 2-bedroom units, 89 households. For the 50% studio units, 39 households. 80% 2-bedroom units, 83 households. 100% studio units, 66 households. And 100% 1-bedroom units, the general pool, I had to create 2 different ones for the 100% 1-bedroom units, 78 households again. So the smallest waiting list will have 39 households. That's for 50% studio units. And the largest waiting list is going to have 89 households. That's for 100% AMI 2-bedroom unit. And then everything in between. So there's a lot of households on each list and many households who are on 2, 3, 4 different lists. Okay, so we'll get to the lottery here pretty soon. I'm sure people are getting tired of hearing me talk. I'll do the local drawing first, followed by the general drawing. Just in terms of next steps, so if you recall, you did not have to submit income and asset documentation with your lottery application. So we've entered households into the lottery based on the information that they put in their application. And we'll create the waiting list. And then the next step of this process is going to be that households are going to be put in touch with the leasing office, okay, which is separate from SCB. And then they will start to work with the leasing office and they'll be invited to apply for a lease. In all likelihood, the leasing office will invite multiples of households at the same time, and they'll probably contact you on a certain day and give you perhaps a week or so, maybe a bit longer, to apply for a lease. And then on that deadline, they'll see who applied, and they'll evaluate who meets their lease screening criteria. Remember, we, SEB, have not made any determinations about who is and who is not eligible for a lease, and that's not something we do. Households who are eligible for a lease will then be able to reserve the unit of their choice from their waiting list, and then they will come back to SEB Housing for the third and final step, which is to submit all of the income and asset documentation demonstrating that they are in fact eligible for the unit that they applied for. Because remember, again, we didn't collect any of that to put you into the lottery. We did, however, send you a guide when we sent you an eligibility letter, and that told you the types of documents that you would have to submit to us if you do get to that third and final step. And so hopefully households have begun to collect some of those documents so that if and when they get to that point, they have the documents and they can submit them easily enough to us. Again, keep in mind there are lots of households on each waiting list, and so you may have to be a little bit patient, especially if you're further down on a waiting list. You may get contacted. It could take a few weeks, or you may not get contacted for a long time if the households ahead of you take the available units on that list, okay? So if you're way down on the waiting list, you'll keep that position, but you may not get contacted to apply for a lease this year or next year, and not for a long time. If, again, the households ahead of you take the available units on that list. Okay, so I think without further ado, give me just 1 second. My colleague Catherine is just sending me a message here, and so just give me a moment here, please, folks. This is relative to this lottery. I want to read this message, and then we will get going with the actual lottery drawing. All right, just give me 1 more second here, folks. Sorry for the delay. Just another moment here. Apologize, everyone. Okay, so we're going to move forward with the lottery drawing. Zasil, I'm going to come back to you. I'm not finding any record of you in our database. I don't know why that is, but I know there's a bunch of folks, 51 other folks here waiting for me to do the drawing, so I don't want to hold it up right now. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then after we do the drawing, I will, if you're still here, I can circle back and see if I can figure out what may have happened. Or if you want to follow up with us tomorrow or the next day, that's totally fine too. But again, we just have a bunch of other folks here tuning in, so I don't want to continue to hold off. But I got to look in and see what may have happened here. I just don't have any record of you in the database, so I'm not sure why that is. Okay. So if there aren't any other questions, and again, folks, I will stick around after we do the actual drawing. If there are questions, okay? So if you think of something, you can certainly stick around after the drawing and ask your question. Catherine, are you all set to go? Catherine, are you all set to go?
Yep.
Okay.
All ready.
All right, great. All right, so just put all the lottery application numbers in a box, which again is just to the left of me. You can't see it. I'm just mixing them up now, and then I will start to pick them out, and I'll put them up to the screen as we go, okay? And just so you know, here's my box, okay? And I will start picking them out, and here we go. This is the local list, 125 households, I think it was. First one is A.068. A.062. Sorry, A.026. A.026. Read that one backwards. A.058. A.127. A.040. A.078. A.048. A.154, A.007, A.049, A.110, A.100, A.140, A.096, A.123, A.093, A.054, A.030, A.117, A.023, A.108, A.136, A.101, A.153, A.097, A.181, A.022, A.098, A.107, A.118, A.069, A.143, A.116, A.016, A.092, A.111, A.010, A.079, A.083, A.089, A.139, A.024, A.132. A.159. A.021. A.145. A.067. A.106. A.064. A.146. A.065. A.114. A.033. A.102. A.038. A.020. A.148. A.147. A.144. Shake these up a little bit. A.130. A.152. A.085. A.014. A.032. A.126. A.003. A.074. A.149. A.095. A.112. A.071. A.076. A.037. A.046. A.099. A.075. A.080. A.057. A.063. A.122. A.087. A.088. A.031. A.131. A.077. A.017. A.062. A.138. A.151. A.133. A.090. A.002. A.094. A.028. A.137. A.015. A.105. A.084. A.039. A.129. A.036. A.055, A.027, A.119, A.070, A.072, A.113, A.025, A.086, A.142, A.011, A.052, A.120, A.104, A.150, A.035, A.125, A.008, A.034, A.103, A.115, A.013, A.109, A.135, A.050, and that's it. Okay, that was the local preference drawing, big local preference drawing. Okay, so now we get to do the general drawing, which will be all of those households plus the other 50-something that were in the general pool. So I'm going to see if I can just speed it up a little bit. I know that it took some time to get through. I'll see if I can move it along a little faster for everyone's sake. Again, folks, obviously it's better to be picked earlier than later. But again, there's a lot of different households who are applying for and qualifying for different things in these drawings. And so until I've had some time, which I'll work on after this tonight and tomorrow, to sort it all, it's a little hard to know what it means in real time. Again, being picked earlier is better than later, but I'll get it all sorted and put onto waiting lists in a sensible fashion and get those to you by tomorrow via email. If you don't have email, I'll put it in postal mail so you can see exactly where you stand on each waiting list as compared to other households on that waiting list. Okay, so without further ado, here's the general drawing, all 182 households. Let me put my stack of lottery cards in my box, and I'm going to give it a good shake up. Actually, I'm just going to get my hand right in there, mix it all up. Sec here, move it all around, get these numbers mixed up, and then I will put the top back on my box and start pulling out numbers. Good mix up here. All right. Get a quick drink of water. This is a pretty big one, not as big as the one we did in Somerville. Took 6.5 hours. So if you think this takes long, you should have seen that one. Okay, here we go. A.105. This is the general, by the way, everyone. A.142. A.007. A.006. A.134. A.066. A.050. A.012. A.178. A.040. A.054. A.044. A.110. A.154. A.127. A.133. A.180. A.001. A.005. A.100. A.131. A.148. A.072. A.051. A.171. A.098. A.122. A.042. A.082. A.026. A.093. A.030. A.175. A.049. A.002. A.073. A.144. A.091. A.108. A.022. A.151. A.102. A.157. A.014. A.031. A.140. A.028. A.089, A.136, A.010, A.055, A.107, A.103, A.075, A.179, A.074, A.086, A.033, A.080, A.113, A.132, A.035, A.034, A.079, A.125, A.104, A.069, A.097, A.169, A.019, A.032, A.070, A.029, A.047, A.146, A.013, A.155, A.152, A.115, A.092, A.161, A.018, A.011, A.129, A.003, A.119, A.068, A.099, A.168, A.123, A.177, A.126, A.052, A.021, A.039, A.130, A.172, A.120, A.163, A.164, A.141, A.046, A.004, A.020, A.067, A.064, A.150, A.077, A.078, A.090, A.167, A.081, A.009, A.173, A.111, A.084, A.053, A.128, A.147, A.170, A.017, A.139, A.156, A.138, A.094, A.008, A.065, A.181, A.117, A.076, A.153, A.166, A.085, A.059, A.025, A.088, A.165, A.135, A.106, A.101, A.114, A.024, A.145, A.023, A.174, A.176, A.159, A.160, A.058, A.037, A.118, A.043, A.096, A.016, A.063, A.149, A.182, A.158, A.057, A.038, A.109, A.083, A.071, A.056, A.137, A.060, A.061, A.048, A.116, A.027, A.045, A.095, A.124, A.112, A.015, A.062, A.041, A.162, A.143. A.121. A.087. A.036. I think that is it. Okay, so workout. That was it. Like I said, I got to sort the results, which I'll work on tonight. I'll create the waiting list. You'll get those by email. If you gave us an email, there were a handful of households who didn't provide email, so I'll have to put that in the regular mail to you. You'll probably get it in a few days. You'll be on every waiting list that you applied and qualified for. And when you get those waiting lists, you find your lottery application number, and you'll see exactly where you stand relative to the other households who applied for those waiting lists. Again, there were anywhere from 40 to 80 something households on each list, with many households being on multiple lists. When we email you, I'll send you some of the details that we went over tonight, so you have those in writing. And we will give your contact information to the leasing office, and we'll give their contact information to you. And the next step of this process will be for them to get in touch with you, or you to get in touch with them to apply for a lease. That'll be for top households on each list. And then if you are lease eligible, you can reserve the unit of your choice based on your ranking where you are on the waiting list. And then if you're lease eligible, you'll come back to SCB to complete this process, which is to submit the income, asset, and tax documentation that you haven't given us yet. So a couple more steps along the way, but anyway, hopefully you have a roadmap for what's next. And I'll stick around here for a second if there are any questions. I know, Zaciel, I got to look into this for you. That may take a few moments, so I'm just going to see if there are any other quicker questions I might be able to answer from any other households before I dig around and see what happened with your application. And okay, I don't see any questions yet, so feel free to chime in with questions, folks, if you have them. And if you don't have them, you are obviously free to leave, and we'll be in touch with you just as soon as we have the waiting lists compiled. And again, folks, I'm just looking into this one issue right now. So folks, if you do not have a question, you can certainly tune out now. That's sort of the end of the presentation. Just looking into this one specific question. Okay, so 2 questions. Melissa, yep, those were all the numbers yep, all the numbers for the lottery were called, all 182 of them. And then Sean, what day is the document requirements guide due? So just to be clear, Sean, if you're one of the top households on a waiting list, you'll get invited by the leasing office to apply for a lease. And if you are eligible for a lease, which is usually a quicker review, looking into things like your credit history and perhaps landlord references and criminal background, if any. If you're eligible for a lease and you can reserve a unit, you would come back to SCB, and you'd have about a week or 10 days to submit all of those income, asset, and tax documents. So I can't tell you a day right now because it depends on sort of when you get invited, when you reserve a unit, and when you come back to us. Joanna Rodriguez just checking in. Did A32 get called? I'm sure that it did. I don't know exactly where off the top of my head. Catherine, do you have that info?
Yeah, let me look that up.
Okay. Hold on a second there, Joanna. We're looking it up. And again, Joanna, every number gets called, and then we got to make the waiting list based on the different priorities. So you definitely got called. Catherine's looking where exactly, but that's not where you're going to necessarily be on a waiting list, because the waiting list we have to compile tonight, and we have to apply different priorities. And so you'll get the waiting list from us. You should get them by tomorrow, and then you'll see exactly where you are. Thanks, Catherine. And again, folks, I'm just looking into this one other specific issue. So if households have questions, please feel free to let us know what those are. And if you don't have any questions, you can certainly move on with your evening, and we'll get you the waiting list just as soon as we can. So Sean, I see your question. Yeah, there's not an official date from today, because the date it's due is pinned to when you reserve a unit, and I can't tell you when you're going to reserve a unit. So it'll be, I think, a week or 10 days from when you reserve a unit, which could be weeks or months from now. It kind of depends on how where you are on a waiting list, the order in which they invite households. So I can't tell you right now a specific day. I can only say it's pinned to when you reserve a unit. Okay, and then Zasso, I'm looking into this issue, and I see in our email that you did submit an application, but I don't see you in the database. So I need to look into this and get you an answer, and I will try and do that by tomorrow. And are you still at the, let's see, are you still at the iCloud.com email address, or if you want to email us at info@SEB Housing. All right, so Zaciel, I just put something in the chat box there, but I'm going to have to speak with my team and look into this a little bit further. I do see an application from April, but I don't see any follow-up to it, and I'm not sure why that is. So please bear with me. I'll look into it, and we'll figure out something for you, and I'll be in touch soon. Okay? All right. I don't think I see any other questions. So with that, we'll be in touch soon. Have a good night, everyone. Stay safe. We'll send the waiting lists and some other background information should be tomorrow. Okay? Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.